And on that note, can I please welcome to the stage Ian Peter and Dr. Tobias Feakin. We're just going to make this up. Would you like to go first?
Do you want to go first? I don't mind. Do you want to go first? That's very kind. Okay, thank you very much. And thank you, Sandra, for that 2-month, what you thought would be a 2-month investment begins a 2-year journey. I can't tell you actually how genuinely exciting it is to be here today. And to acknowledge all those that have been involved. So Sandra, thank you very much for your energy. I'm loving the pink accoutrement for those who have put in their time selflessly and without payment to ensure that NetThing reoccurs. I like to think that I was psychic and wore some pink flowers of my own so I could very subtly and quietly say that I helped play a part. And that's really rewarding for me to be able to say that, because I remember when I began this position, and I knew the significance of internet governance forums around the world, and the obviously the main internet governance forum that takes place once a year. And we felt as a team that it was vital that this was a way of engaging with civil society, with the private sector, with all of those who have an interest, a stake, a claim to being involved with the internet. And that's one of the wonderful things about this piece of infrastructure. It's not a kind of government solely owned piece of kit. It's something that we all own, maintain, contribute to, and ensure it is the wondrous place that it actually is. So those initial stages, and I'm seeing a lot of faces room. I remember sitting in that small room across the road from DFAT main office on Sydney Avenue, where we all began trying to nut out exactly what the next stages might be. So I'm thrilled that we're here today. I'm thrilled that we've been able to reach this point. And I think it's in that vein, I remember saying in that room, well, what's the proposition for government? Why would we be here? And I think that was the question aimed at me quite strongly, was, well, why should we do this? Why should government be there? And what are you actually going to contribute? Well, I said, well, I'm genuinely happy that we bring some of our agenda into the room before it's actually happened, so that we can listen to what your views are on that position and ensure that we're mindful and contributing your thoughts and your ideas into the international forums that we take part in. So I'm really happy that we've got, is it a fishbowl event? I'd never heard of a fishbowl event, but it looks good. And you have Australia's expert to the UN Group of Government Experts, Johanna Weaver, who's going to come and take part in that. And again, in that vein, this is before we've had the first UN Group of Government Experts in New York, so you will genuinely be inputting into the Australian position in that room. So please take advantage. Don't think for a second that your opinions, your voices won't be heard. That's the whole point of having a session like this, so we can listen to what you think the priority should be and work out how we can have a common position. The value for an Australian ambassador for cyber affairs, what is it as well? Well, it means that this has to be a multi-stakeholder position. I can't go and represent Australia if I don't understand exactly what broader communities are interested in. Yeah, sure, I can go and see government colleagues and understand what our positions are, but something like this is invaluable to ensure that we can wrap up some of your thinking and I can represent you as well in international forums. Now that may sound mother and apple pie, but it genuinely is something that I believe strongly in. This is a multi-stakeholder position, and I try and work hard in terms of outreach, engagement, and continually having conversations with those outside of my usual areas of jurisdiction, if you like. And this matters, right? The things that you contribute here today and the way that you're thinking about the way that the internet is governed and will be governed in the future is vitally important. It's one of the few areas, I think, in life where our voices genuinely can have an impact on the geopolitics of what's going on in the internet. And we're not shying away from that. We understand now that the internet is becoming a geopolitically contested area, domain, if you will. So it's vital that, again, we are connecting with everyone who has a vested interest in this to ensure that we're representing your interests as much as government. So it's in that vein, it's a real privilege to be here today, to see you all gathered here, grasp the opportunity, engage with one another, and keep thinking bigger and better and how we can push this forward. I think this has been a really worthwhile investment of all of our time inside government, communications department as well, and all the valuable work they do on this area. We will continue being here in the right way, which I think is a light touch, so I'm honoured that I've been allowed to open up today. So thank you very much for being here, and I look forward to everything that's to come. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm a little overawed. There are just so many people in this room who do so much fantastic stuff in this area that it's absolutely wonderful that an event has happened to bring everybody together and, you know, what might be able to come out of that. I want to talk about cooperation a little bit because right from the beginning, cooperation was one of the interesting things that was around for the internet. I first got involved actually as a rainforest activist back in the early 1980s. And what we were trying to do was to set up a World Rainforest Action Network. Now, if anybody remembers the days before there was an internet that was complex, we could print a magazine and post it out to people. We could send airmail letters, which would take 2 weeks to reach people. We couldn't afford to, do what they call telegrams. And, in those days, international phone calls were ridiculously expensive. You couldn't do those sort of things. So when we discovered this thing called email, these things called news groups, and, this emerging thing, this became pretty exciting for us because it opened up to a possibility that we could cooperate and we could grow. And I can just recall one particular event, October 31st in 1987. I think we had a little bit of a network underway around the world, and we'd organised a series, I think it was about 60 or 80 simultaneously rallies around the world to deal with the Penang people. The Penang were a tribal people in Malaysia, and they were standing in front of bulldozers. And they'd all been, 100 of them been arrested by the Malaysian government, and they're going to trial. We wanted to say something about this. Now, the night before this, the Malaysian government cancelled the day of the trial, but we had all the rallies underway, and we had to change all our press releases and all our media releases. Now, in the days before we had an internet, how could we have done this? We couldn't. I mean, one of our key organisers, somewhere in Europe, even phone with all its expensive time zones couldn't happen. We hopped online, one email, 2 minutes, everybody was told. And I thought, my, this is powerful, this opportunity for collaboration and for people to be able to cooperate and work together is amazing. And that's what I think drove me into starting to work on developing this technology and developing this, what became an industry. So from there, of course, and it wasn't just rainforest groups, it was all sorts of groups, people with disability, civil society is such a big thing, human rights groups. It goes on and on in terms of the number of groups, its capacity to communicate been greatly enhanced by this medium. But by the same token, racists, all sorts of other groups, terrorists, have also got the opportunity to communicate in an enhanced manner. It's not quite the utopia that we were hoping for. It's ended up as something that's able to be used for very good purposes, but also for some things that we don't really like much at all. And I think those developments were what started governments to start to think, well, we're going to do something around this, and also civil rights groups as well. We were very much interested in sort of issues like digital inclusion, the number of people around the world who weren't online. So this then started to rise to civil society groups working on another level, which was on the level of trying to deal with something that in those days was called internet governance. And so we started things like an Internet Governance Forum, and there were other groups that sort of started to get people working together on these issues. And one of the key events then was 15 years ago now, was the World Summit of an Information Society. And this was a bit of an eye-opener for a lot of us, because now instead of just civil society working together, this was an event where civil society, the business community and governments were all working together, and everybody was having their respective inputs into how this thing might be shaped into some of the issues we were dealing with. One of the key phrases I remember coming out of WSIS 15 years ago was the idea that all groups, civil society, which includes academia, which included the technical community, governments, business, should work together on an equal footing. So in other words, it's not about governments trying to do this, heaven help us if it was. It's not about business being left alone to do this, heaven help us if it was. It's about everybody cooperating and what can be gained by these levels of, they even used the phrase, enhanced cooperation, which became the subject of many debates, but the whole idea that now we had this opportunity to work together. And here today on an Australian level, we've got the same thing of getting all of the groups, all of these respective groups in our society being able to work together on the range of issues we've got. The range of issues is huge. Internet of Things and all the security issues around that, algorithmic distortions in artificial intelligence, it goes on, fake news. I won't try and list them all, except to say there are many. They all need work, they all need cooperation. I like the term digital cooperation. I think it says an awful lot in terms of what we need to achieve, and I hope today's a great step forward in that direction. Thank you.
Thank you.